How you doing, Chris?
Good, how are you?
Doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. It's been an interesting couple of years,
Hmm.
As you can see behind me, I've just kind of, like a lot of voice actors, transitioned to working in it's my little studio behind me. It's a repurposed. It's a blue box. It's got TARDIS stuff on it because I'm a big dork.
Thanks for willing to do this.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem.
So I can just jump around then with your career so far.
Yeah, let's do it.
So professionally, did everything start with the Half-Life Redemption game?
Well, I think voice wise, yeah. I was a little over actor when I was a kid. I'd done a couple of like commercials, but I was like at that point when I first got into acting, I was like 4 foot 11, so I was always the charactery little best friend buddy. And then in college, I really enjoyed the weird modding scene of Half-Life at the time. So it was kind of like a little half dorkiness, a little half acting. There wasn't a lot of places to find like to get into video game voiceovers. I don't know if you remember, like in 1998, 99, 2000, voices in video games were mostly pretty awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you're like I'm thinking of like House of the Dead. They're hiring like Canadians in Japan and just the weirdest stuff. So it was really tricky to get into. So I had actually created, because I was a huge nerd at the time, my own online talent agency where like I was actually helping other people find work, but that one also kind of fell on my lap whenever I saw the audition come in. I was like, shoot, I'll see if I can do a sound like, and that's how that happened. Way later, I got into anime.
Right.
But yeah, I hopped and skipped my way through all kinds of different, when you're an actor, you kind of, gigs are gigs. You kind of take whatever weird direction you go.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Was that also when you were in LA?
So when I recorded that Half-Life Redemption, that later got released as part of like the Counter-Strike pack, like
Hmm.
this big box thing at the time. I thought it was so cool that I was getting like, being in some released product. I was living, I think, I think I was in Kansas City, Missouri. I bounced around a lot. I was living in Kansas City, and then like 3 years later, I bounced back to LA and forth many times. So no, I wasn't quite in LA then,
Okay.
but yeah, when I first lived in LA, I was doing, like I said, I wanted to be like a real like on-screen actor. And I was 4'11", I grew way up to 5'5". So fortunately, Hollywood's pretty cool with like slapping short people on Apple boxes and stuff. Little Tom Cruise, that's me. I did several pilots, and LA was an expensive place to live. I ended up bouncing, for auditions, and then yeah, I found a lot of work in Texas later on in my life, because the market is also pretty great, but the cost of living is so much lower.
Hmm. And when you were living in LA, did you get into SAG too?
Um, I did at the time. I joined a couple of unions in my life. Through the nature of like living life, I ended up dropping out of SAG, and um, just because the market wasn't very great. Because for a while I was bouncing around, and I started doing more and more uh, voice work, not anime yet, but I was doing like radio commercials, and wherever I was pretty flexible, but the market just I was in smaller markets, so it was hard to do union stuff. Because you'd have to do special contracts with like smaller production companies and stuff like that. Yeah, and I actually joined another when I was in equity for musical theater. I did some tours and stuff like that. But once again, eventually after 7 or 8 years of just not doing any equity work like that, I just kind of dropped that, and Yeah, I don't necessarily regret that. Yeah, I know there's a lot of talk in the anime world about union stuff, and I think it's a complex process here in Texas where I live,
Mhm.
but I can absolutely understand, yeah, needing to do union stuff like out in the West Coast.
Yeah. Well, I did want to ask too, was one of the pilots that you
I'm
did?
sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was going to ask too, one of the pilots that you did for MTV.
Oh yeah, so I did a I did a lot of pilots, but that I did this one. Gosh, what was it called? I've kind of blocked this out in my life. Um, Basically, the gist of it was like, imagine Saturday Night Live or Mad TV mixed with like movie review show. So we would go onto the sets of the movies as they're being shot and use their backgrounds to basically mock them and get a little synergy with the shows and stuff. And uh I had a pretty mean Michael J. Fox impression at the time, and we did like some Back to the Future stuff and a little Nitty Needlelander from Three Amigos, any short dude. I was the man. It was around the time of like first Lord of the Rings, so some really weird Golem bits, and it was great. And then they flew me out and had we shot this thing, but like a lot of things in LA, it's a lot of maybes. They got pitched to one studio and they dropped, and then it got moved to another one, and then like a lot of pilots, it just kind of nothing happened.
Mhm.
Nothing happened with that one. But yeah, I got paid, but I would have been paid more if it got picked up.
What was your experience on Scrubs?
Oh, couple of things. Initially I did some what they call background work on the show, where you kind of walk around the background and you just kind of. I was a little doctor intern, and then I had a gig that I booked where I was in a scene and I did some really cool stuff. Zach Braff's great. This was the season with Heather Graham. I think it was like maybe season three. I did a scene where I was this. It sounds depressing. I was the son of a person whose father died, but they were a little bit, let's say, a little wacky. It was a little wacky of a thing, but like a lot of things in LA, I shot that, and then after the fact, they rewrote some stuff, and then that got cut.
Oh.
Oh well, you can still see me on the background of a lot of stuff. I have some really funny looks
Mhm.
as in a couple of scenes. But yeah, that's the way the Los Angeles cookie crumbles. It's a cruel place.
Yeah. And I know that you've said before that when you did move to Texas that you already had anime in mind. So
Yeah.
did you take the dubbing easier then, or was it still difficult to get used to?
Well, I knew that there was a production market for lots of stuff here in Texas. I knew there were, video games, and there's a radio market, and also I was still interested in doing live theater, so I knew there was a theater market. I had worked on a movie um, starring Eric Roberts and Vivica A. Fox, where another secondary character, his name is Brian Massey. He does a lot of anime.
Mhm.
We shot that. We didn't shoot that here in Texas, but my wife and I, we were kind of trying to figure out some stuff with our life because we were in Tulsa, Oklahoma, taking care of some family business for like several years. And after that, I wanted to move to a market that was just a little bit more palatable to being a thespian. So Texas was kind of closer, and I had some connections with some other people that had worked in voiceover, and it's not like that got me a job or anything, but I had some connections to like send my resumes and my demo reels and stuff too. And uh, during that time, I was also doing some musical theater here in Texas. All like I came in swinging to Dallas.
Mhm.
And me and my wife, we were doing some musicals, and so during that time, I booked another cartoon that was what they call prelay. It was not like anime, but I
Yes.
was doing another thing here. I was really confident about that. And so when I came in for my first audition for an anime role, which was No-Rin with Mike McFarland, I had the ignorance of, not knowing that it might be difficult to do anime, but I came in and I was a little too cocky, but I booked it. That was my first thing I auditioned for. I magically booked it, and it was for the show No-Rin. And at the time, it took about a year for it to get out. So I recorded, and then nothing happened for me in anime for like a full year. So I was still doing other stuff before things started picking up. After that, I was doing what they call wall, which is kind of like background for a couple of roles. And things started picking up after that. Yeah. So it only took about a year after I got here.
I know Dance with Devils was relatively early on too.
Yeah, Dance with Devils was a really fun project. That was, I believe, Kyle Phillips, eventually the ADR director for Fire Force. He was a director on that. And I had auditioned for some other roles because it's like a bunch of singer stuff, and I have a little musical theater background. So I came in and I sang, and he was like, yeah, hey, Derick, can you like bark like a dog? He just kind of randomly threw that out. And I was like, yeah, I could bark like a dog. And so I just, just doing silly dog barks and howls and stuff. He was like, that's great. And so a little while later, I came in for that character, the little Pomeranian buddy. Oh, what was
Leywin?
Dance with the yeah. And we got the great, first I was just barking, and then like the great songs came in, and it just kind of flourished as a fun little character for me. Yeah, it did. I think I kind of surprised Kyle with just how weird I was willing to get in the booth, and that led to some other fun projects with Kyle. Yeah, and other great directors at Funimation, but that one in particular was probably I think that was the first time I worked with Kyle. I think. I'm probably wrong.
And you've gotten to sing for other anime too.
Bits and pieces here and there. A lot of like what was it called? Actor Songs Connection.
Yeah,
that was a fun role where I was like a little radio DJ, and there was some singing in that. And we're finally getting to some episodes of One Piece where I play a big bird named Morgans. And there's a musical bit in one of the episodes where it goes straight like Disney musical theater. We just recorded that like a couple weeks ago. So I take every little weird song opportunity I can get, and I can keep rhythm. So like for a lot of cheers and stuff, and like the background of shows, I don't know if you know, there's a lot of high school shows where there's like people cheering in the background. I almost always get, yes, I get to book those.
Do you have much affinity with Yaga and Toshiro still?
Yeah. I mean, that was Token Rambu. Yeah. Yes, I remember recording that, and I just kind of had some great surprise moments with the fighting stuff was fun, but I really loved like those initial like family building moments with him and his was it friend or sibling? I can't quite remember on that one. I was on like a rooftop, and I believe Jade Saxton was directing me on that. And we eked out some really nice, sweet moments with that. And so I have good memories on that. And some people bring some really cool sculptures from that show to me from time to time when I manage at conventions. There's some beautiful art around all that stuff. It's wonderful.
Do you think that you have a personal preference for working on like lighter stuff opposed to dramatic or horror?
Well, I feel like my favorite like role is usually the one that I'm like doing right now.
Okay.
At that moment. So I don't know. It's hard for me. Like I love bad guy stuff because you can just be ridiculous, a little campier, a little like you just kind of revel in the bastardness of it. That's kind of fun because it's the one time you can kind of go a little crazy without getting arrested. But there's something nice about being I play a lot of good boys these days. It feels pretty good it's like positive therapy sometimes to like embody somebody like Yagan or like a real from like Black Clover,
Mhm.
or recently that just got announced yesterday was a Prince of Tennis,
Right.
Kikumaru, which is an ultimate good boy. So that's really where I am. But just a few months ago, I was playing a character named Nagata in oh gosh, what's the show? It's a real downer, but it's really, really trippy. Oh no, I've forgotten the
Oh,
name of it.
Sunny Boy.
Sunny Boy. Thank you. Yeah, Sunny Boy. I don't know. Yeah. So like each time I kind of creep over those, I'm like, oh, I love that one the most, or I love that one the most. Um, I feel like, yeah, the thing where I'm like just kind of putting all of my emotional energy to at that moment. I think that's what I most enjoy. I love the opportunity for variety, though. I don't know if I want to get stuck in one particular zone.
Mhm.
Fortunately, like my voice is a little dynamic and I can get kind of weird. So sometimes I kind of get typecast as like weird voice guys, and that's fun.
Well, what do you think
Or
is
this
the?
little magic rasp or whatever that just I can. Oh, sorry. Continue.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, what is the case where you've had to get the darkest headspace for? Do you think?
I know Dr. Danny in Angels of Death had some pretty dark moments, and the funny thing was he came like what if you've ever seen the show, he starts off as like very nice, and then he goes batshit crazy, right? Like about halfway through, and his tongue comes out, and he's got an extra eyeball, and then he gets just cleaved, and then I thought he was dead. Because we were doing what they call simuldubs, so we didn't quite know what was about to happen because it hadn't been released in Japan either. And so not too long later, I get the call like, "Hey, Derick, he's back. Dr. Danny's back." I was like, "How?" but but as he came back, like he became this, this almost like just a big bad guy that's kind of just a little crazy. To weirdly, he became more endearing as I've got the chance to flesh out the character and in my head and in the booth. So like there were some pretty dark moments, and also I feel like because he kept dying over and over again, each time, I bring the A game so you can have this great moment of here I go, this is the end, and I got to do that so many times with that guy. But I've played some other like really like unfortunately dark characters. Like there was this I believe the show is Assassination Classroom, and I don't think he even got a name. So it kind of looks like a background character, but he was on like I want to say 2 or 3 episodes. He starts off on the periphery, like at an electronics store, and then later on he becomes like this stalker, and then he gets kind of like super like sex creepy, sex pesty, super creepy guy at the end, and that was very interesting to delve into. Fortunately, bad stuff happened to him, so I'm pretty happy with what happened to him. But yeah, those moments, it's very interesting. It's like I said, it gives you an opportunity to go places that you can feel in an environment where you can feel safe to do that without actually becoming murdery or bad guy in real life. So that's good.
Yeah.
And when I'm done, I'm not a method actor. I can release it. I'm not taking murdered boys home with me.
Okay. Well, I know there was not quite to that degree, but Conan and Tales of the Hysteria too.
Let me see it. Tales of let me Google myself.
Okay.
Tales of Hysteria. Yeah. Prince Conan. Yes. Yeah, there were some very interesting moments. What stood out to you that you remember?
Well, I think at the very end, like his face, like just the appearance totally changes, and he has like
Right? How it shifts. Yeah,
yeah,
they get. I mean, fortunately, like the animation helps, with that kind of stuff. But it's fun to like do those, those little shifts in the booth. Usually, the director is very helpful with that kind of stuff. But sometimes, I now this has been a second, but in my mind, I have these what I like to call wild takes. So I'll do something one way, and then sometimes that gets used. But if they're still rolling, I kind of, I think I did it like a different kind of shift. for that one,
Mhm.
for the last bit. And I think that's what ended up getting used. I love being able, sometimes, you know, if the director's flexible enough, just kind of throwing a different angle in there. And that's always a fun opportunity to do.
Mhm. I know at least appearance wise, you have a creepy character in Fairy Gone too.
Oh yeah, geez, yeah, Fairy Gone, yeah, crazy, crazy. A lot of screaming. I'll tell you what. I believe Caitlin Glass directed me on that, and we were just figuring out different ways to scream. It, you know, like with textures and blood curdles and all these great breaths and stuff, just to uh, you know, keep it unique and with different levels and stuff like that. Caitlin's great to be directed by, and yeah, it's pretty easy for me to. I feel like at any moment, if I'm directed, I can take it to like 11 with my energy. Sometimes booth, so it's fun to do that.
Yeah. This is a
I
more
think at the exact same time I was working on that, I was working on another show with Caitlin, another show called Radiant.
yeah.
At the exact same time, also directed by Caitlin, which is, if you've ever seen that show, it's like this little green Mr. Boobry, this little green dragon buddy. And also a lot of weird, I feel like just for a hot second, she kept wanting to cast me just as these funny, like guttural, funny little voiced characters, which I'll take. I was very, very grateful for that, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Thanks.
This is a more wholesome character, Chidori in Centaur's Life.
Oh yeah. I love those good, adorable, good lads. Centaur's Life. Yeah, yeah. It's fun. Sometimes I have to be reminded of those roles.
Yeah.
You do a lot. I've slept since then, unfortunately. You know, it'd be interesting if we got the chance to, like, a lot of the times, you know, we're just reading and going. It'd be so fun to like be able to like memorize a line, like Shakespeare style, or like a play before you go in. Sometimes we don't get that opportunity. Usually with musical stuff we do. I think maybe that's another reason why I like it. But yeah, we do a lot of different tricks in this biz.
Mm-hmm. Well, who do you think that you personally relate the most to then, with who you've played?
I feel like I'm a little schizophrenic in life. I also am an artist. I like to paint. I like to do drawings. So it's really easy for me to be Team Real Bois Mortier from Black Clover, because we like art. I wish I had magical art. That'd be cool. But when he gets like a little emo, I can get that. I can get that level of emo about, like, you know, something's not turning out. I get that dark, shadowy stuff. Yeah. Apart from just being like a cheerful, like he's kind of higher up in my register all the time. Some days I'm naturally that way, like if I'm really excited, but if I'm really not, I'm not sure I can always exactly relate. Like super emo stuff, absolutely. Yeah. But let me think. Yeah. Probably no. Now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I don't think I don't know if I want to relate to Dr. Danny every day.
What about with Shinra?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In a lot of ways, I grew into those, finding those like absolute human moments with Shinra, because worked once again, directed by Kyle Phillips. He's the man. He directed me on another show where I was Wall Ito, a big bad in a fairy tale, where he was like multiple characters, and I was doing lots of different voices, and I had this one extra gravelly part that, you know, the teeth come out and he starts smiling, you know, and Kyle's like, you know, it always sounds like you're kind of smiling. That's interesting. And so at the very least, the one thing I almost always embody when I'm Shinra is the smile. You can kind of hear it, I think, if you're listening. I also can get a little awkward around, like, you know, wanting to be my best, but like not exactly just like acting it out maybe in the right ways, you know, because like he wants to be the hero, but he may he just says it all the time. He just, I will be a hero. I am a hero. You're yeah, we're heroes. I'm a hero. I kind of have, I give myself these mantras, maybe not quite that in, you know, to that level. I wish I was as flexible and I could like kick high and stuff like Shinra. He's a pretty badass character. But I think the way I most relate to Shinra is, like I was saying a little earlier, when it comes to those personal little moments, like when he's talking to his family, or some of his favorite people from Company 8, when he's having these quieter, like family bonding or growing moments. I really relate to that stuff with Shinra. Like I super connect, because you know, I love the shonen, you know, aspect of it, where, you know, things get crazy and heated, fire, heated in battle and stuff like that. But I mean, you know, I do a lot of anime, and you know, that kind of stuff gets brought up a lot. But these connections, you know, these personal connections, I love just latching onto those, so I can make him a person that's connected to these magical powers. So yeah, that I think that's how I try to keep a part of him with me. And whenever I meet people out in the world, it's funny, you know, like people, I'm very empathetic. So when people like hand me, say, like a Fire Force, like some fun little toy or something, like a cool costume, like I can't help it, I just magically like turn into Shinra, like with my voice. I'm not trying. Like, and I'm saying, it's like, yeah, that's hot, you go hot. Yeah, I turn into Shinra when I least expect it, except for the, you know, burning feet sensation.
What about with Smile Down the Runway?
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, Smile Down the Runway. That was a really fun show. I was a character, if you know those watching, Iketo Sumura. He was probably the character I cried in the booth more than anybody else. It was very cathartic, because he wears his emotions on his sleeve. So you've got to be just touching that electricity, you know, at any moment, but not like, you know, up here. It's like here, but also a little bit of like, he could cry at any moment. So at some points, you know, when he's thinking about his family or his mom or his friends, he's just, he's a thinker, you know, he's logical. So he's not an illogical crier, but he like, my God, I cried so many times, you know, on purpose. So it was great show. I had a great time, and I love his weird blue hair. I love his, yeah, just the bangs and stuff. It's like, man, I don't know if I could pull that off, but he can. Good job, Iketo. Yeah, that some great acting across with other people moments. Even though, you know, they weren't in the room with me, just some of those moments in that show in particular, just hearing the excellent actors that I was playing across, you know, sometimes I'd record first, but sometimes if I was lucky, you know, they'd already have laid down their stuff, so I could, you know, act across with them and feel their emotion. It was really easy to get in touch, because God, there were some great actors in that show. So it was really easy to get in touch, but there were so many monologues where, yeah, I don't think, like I said, I don't think I've ever cried as much on a show in character as that one. Good stuff. That's the therapy show. Another kind of therapy. You got to drink a lot of water on that show, so you can hear the tears.
Do you find it easy to tap into emotions like that for anime?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm very fortunate. Yes, I have awesome history of improv, and being able to just quickly tap into something and just, you know, yes-anding my way to making it, at the very least, sound as authentic as possible. That's really important to me, you know, as I'm playing. Sometimes we use little tricks, even if we're not necessarily feeling it. We can find a good way to, if I'm lucky, I feel it. It's like, woohoo, that's awesome. Sometimes you got to fake it, you know, like instead of being, you know, just giving yourself a, you know, hyperventilation, you can you just simply make this motion, so you can have a little quiver in your voice or something like that. We find tricks to get through it, because you still gotta make the voice acting donuts no matter what, whether you're feeling it or not. Yeah, another great, very, very great blessing to have been able to. I took speed reading when I was a little kid. And that's super helpful in doing dubs, where you're reading a script and watching a mouth move. You can just kind of see a chunk of text and go, and then say this and go, yes. It's like a stupid human trick that's very helpful.
Well, what do you think, this is more technical, what do you think is the case where you've had to alter your voice the most?
Ooh, well, one story I do like to think about, that the easiest access story is Mimic from My Hero Academia, because he's about this big. He's one of the bad guys in the Shie Hisaikai Yakuza group. He looks like a little penguin. Can you see it right there? Yeah, there he is. He's a little penguin looking dude. He's in this little suit with a little mask, and he starts out, kind of, in my higher range, but like, a little bit like this, he's counting the money, but within 8 seconds, in one scene in particular, he goes from that to about my usual 10. It goes to like 20, but not just my regular voice, like my biggest chest voice, in my lowest chest voice. When you're starting here, you're going, let me turn my volume down, just crazy. In the period of about 8 seconds, that is really difficult, because your vocal cords are stretched one way, and then you gotta like whoop, 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 stretch them this way. That was very intense. Colleen, if she's the ADR director, she's the ADR director for One Piece, and when she brought me in, we laid out basically like this timeline of what would probably happen to this character. We talked about it for about 15 minutes. My first session was 30 minutes, so 15 minutes of it was just kind of talking about it. And then the next 15 minutes was recording a couple of things that kind of went high and a little low, just so we could find like a nice medium. But then after that, it went crazy. We did this one sequence, 25 seconds where not even, it's like starts one way, his head gets crazy and he screams as high as he could. That was very, very intense. And unfortunately, when you do like these huge screams, we like to block out a special time, so you don't like totally murder your voice. And you'd think, because like somebody like Shinra has like, this rasp and it gets a little crazy and a lot of screaming, that doesn't really faze me. It's like right in my, like the perfect part of my voice box. I try to do my characters in a repeatable, so I don't like lose my voice during a session. That I've been very fortunate. I've never lost my voice in a session for screaming. I know it can happen. But yeah, I've been very fortunate about that. Let me think if there's any other craziest. I'm trying to think of any other characters that were like super, like crazy intense. Because like super high characters, not a problem, as long as I'm staying that way. If I'm super low character, well, relatively low, I'm like a baritone. I can get in the lower bits if I stretch. But like going from really high to really low, yeah, it's a little bit of a problem sometimes. I like to do warm-ups, a lot of vocal warm-ups before and after the fact, so I can keep this bad boy in fighting shape.
Has there been a case where you've, I know it's kind of more rare in anime, but have you gotten to perform with yourself before?
I believe also in that show Radiant that I was talking about. So there's this Mr. Boobry kid. Yeah, Mr. Boo! He's just flying around making these little sounds. And then so I could play lots of characters on the show. It was great to do. I could also do Walla, like the background, just all kinds of random stuff during that show. So I did that several times. Like, hey, what's happening? Oh my, while this little he's just flying around like an idiot. Yeah, I remember that one in particular. It happens sometimes. I've started playing, you know, I can't play characters that are my own age a lot of the times because my voice generally has this lighter, more youthful tone. But as I've used the texture in my voice, you know, to create other characters, in particularly like starting with oh, you know, like Morgan's, for example, you know, he kind of sounds like this, you know. Ah! But so if I take that character, I've done a lot of like 50, 60-year-old characters, but like very particular kinds, you know, that just kind of sound like this from time to time. Yeah. Nice and a little gravelly because the regular part of my tone still sounds like I'm like, you know, 15. I'll be playing high school kids for a good long while. Someday I'm going to play an actual like 40-year-old or something. That'll be weird. Just extremes.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got like a what would you consider yourself, a baritone or like that?
Probably, yeah.
So I did something not exactly like your voice, but like that was like the first thing that I booked, that show No-Rin.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was this low, you know, more baritone kind of character, and I haven't done too many of those since, just because it's like perfectly right at the bottom like end of my range. So like if you want to get any lower, like I start throwing in gravel, and then suddenly like this 20-year-old, you know, baritone suddenly sounds like a villain.
I know you had a fun role in Show by Rock too.
That's true. Yeah, that was another weird high-pitched voice. He was like an alien, like a, what was it, like a dog? He had a little triangle on his head, if I recall. Once again, also directed by Caitlin Glass. She loves like just the weirdest, like my highest, weirdest range sometimes. I don't know what made her think of it, but like she's like, yeah, come on in for that. Oh, that's probably me doing that right there. When I get excited, I go high up. That's probably it. And yeah, I was just like, as high and weird as I possibly could go. There was no limit. Like when I was like, how weird and high do you want me? He's like, you do you. I was like, okay.
Mm.
that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I love Caitlin. She puts me in the weird stuff.
I don't know if you can maybe you can remember what the name of the show was, but when I talked to Kyle Ignacy a while ago, he said that there was some show where it was like you and him and a couple other guys that did all you were all like singing as like little tiny like Ewok looking creatures. But you couldn't remember
yeah,
what that was.
I wish I could remember the name of that. I do remember that. Yeah, because you know, I've done so many of these little wall bits, but I specifically remember this wild fun time. It was me. I want to say also Ben Phillips was also in that. He's a great voice actor and does, I believe, translations and stuff for Funny Crunchy Magic. But anyway, yeah, we were all just smashed into this booth, and we had learned these weird songs, and it was like we ended up doing these chants for like an hour, I feel like. And then by the, you know, when you're done doing a chant, it feels like you're in a cult. Because we finally got it down, and it never leaves your brain after that. I wish I could remember the name of it. I could just go through all the anime, but I'm not even sure I'm probably listed in that one. I've done so many freaking I wish. Yeah, it'll probably pop into my head later.
Okay.
At like 2 a.m, and then I'll just scream it at you. I love those moments. You know, that's one of the things that I love about I miss about kind of the pandemic world, where things are sliding out of it now. But man, I love getting into a booth with a bunch of weirdos and just kind of like doing eye contact with, you know, like somebody across the way, so you can like do a weird little line off of each other, because you know it's barely heard as long as you're doing it in character. It's just great. It's great weird improv, and singing together is very, very nice. Maybe I'll pick that back up again now that the world is kind of easing up and stuff.
So I know with Prince of Tennis, you guys were recording that for a long time.
Yeah, we started I don't think a year ago, but maybe a year ago. Gosh, it's been a while. Howard Wang, he's the ADR director for that, and it's been an interesting ride. Just there's so much more to record. My favorite kind of show, it's like One Piece. It never ends. There's so many episodes. We did OVAs. Like I think I posted like 50. We've done 50 episodes that are releasing, like I think yesterday, and so many hours of just embodying this character. But when it doesn't air yet, it's so interesting to like. I've got my mind's eye version of this character, but I haven't actually seen a completed scene at all for like a year. And I hope I'm being consistent. He is. That's one of the great things about having a good director like Howard. He has the whole show. He's a super fan, Prince of Tennis super fan. He grew up with it. He grew up with the original stuff. He retranslated in, as a kid, just like in his notebooks and stuff, just super dude that loves Prince of Tennis. And he had way funny, like you get the flat translation stuff. He had these, he knew, like, because he also did like a Japanese translation and stuff. He knew like more contextually, like hilarious stuff that we could bring into the show. So much fun every time we recorded. And yeah, I always just wanted to tickle he's got this, like I said, this mind's eye version of his character. He's wanted to, like, this voice in his head that he's wanted to play this for like ever since he saw the original, the shows. And my character, I think he's like maybe 14 on the show. So he's really high, but he's like so much energy. He's such a good boy. And I was always just trying to keep the voice and like the characterizations, the energy, just in that spot that just made Howard's brain tingle with happiness. That's all I wanted. I knew I was doing the right thing. I knew I was in the right spot. Yeah, that's the stuff. So I hope people enjoy it. It's been that's kind of one of the things about doing like voice acting or a lot of projects where you're in a place where you've got NDAs where you can't talk about something, but you don't know when you can talk about it. Even with other actors, like, if we're somewhere, I'm like, I'm doing this thing, but, I can't talk about it. It's like, I'm also doing a thing I can't talk about. It's like, oh, interesting. I think you might be doing something similar to what I'm doing, because I think I may have heard you, but I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
I think you were pretty good. I think. Like it was another thing. We did guys, that happens all the time. Just like working on something where you hope. So I've done. Sorry, I'm just kind of bouncing around with my thoughts. They're just kind of going A to Z. But I've worked on other projects like film, where you do something and then you just forget about it, and then a year goes by. But it's interesting doing a continuing series where you do something and that first episode, it could be, 3-4 months, 8 months, 10 months. But then to continue doing this character has been a really interesting mind's eye challenge, to just continually find a way to, get back into that character without hearing anything. I hope I did okay. We'll see. The internet will tell me. I guarantee it.
Yeah. One other more really unique.
Got their opinions.
Another more like unique thing in anime. What was it? What was the approach like to doing Hermes, like the motorcycle in Kino's journey?
Oh, in my mind. So he's a motor rat or motorcycle, what have you. He's like this sidekick to the main character. I wanted to be sincere, but also he's got a lot of, off the cuff stuff that he's saying. And so in my mind, I was kind of pulling, not exactly, I didn't want to sound like him, but like there are these moments when I felt like I was Bugs Bunny, just kind of saying, oh, here we go again, this kind of stuff. So like I was like the friendly, like family member who like you might remind him a little bit of like Bugs Bunny a little bit. There's some great moments. I remember, I think it was maybe the second to the last episode or third to the last episode where there's just so many sheep and we're about to do this crazy ramp where Kino hops on and I just Kino, and we jump off, and yeah, that I felt very much like a Mel Blanc, like a Bugs Bunny kind of thing going on at the time. Very silly, but so many heartwarming and quiet moments, which was I think I keep saying it. I love those quiet moments where I'm just finding the space between me and the other actor that I'm playing off of. Those are great. While keeping in that character. So like, how do you transition from being a little bit like Bugs Bunny to being this real like person, you know, something that you can embody? That's always walking that tightrope.
Also, another more grounded one too I haven't brought up yet was Rickert in Izetta, the witch, the last witch.
Oh yeah, that was early on. I feel like not super long after I started, you know, getting, you know, a little bit more work in the anime world. For a hot second, I don't know if you've ever noticed, like when you see casting announcements, a lot of times the character kind of looks like him a little bit. I feel like the director of that saw me doing something like this blondish kind of almond-eyed lad and said, yeah, you could be Rickert. And if you've ever seen the show, it kind of feels like got that Sound of Music. He might be, I'm not going to say Nazi, well, thing, but like that kind of like, he's kind of like in this world where he's maybe working for like the bad guys as a spy, like a double agent kind of situation.
Yeah.
So he comes in, you feel for him. And then he has this great, I don't know, this wonderful little relationship that starts to flourish, but then like a great Shakespearean end, a tragedy happens, and I love that ending. It ends with, you know, gunshot, and with this great monologue. And as a voice actor who loves to do recurring characters, you know it's about to go away when they start doing really good monologues. I was like, oh, this monologue is really oh no, he's about to die. Ah, dang it. I wanted to play him some more. Oh well. Bye, Rickert. You're pretty cool. I've done that. Was kind of like the Angels of Death situation. Like he kept dying. It's like, oh, that was great. No more work. Oh, he's back. But Rickert, he did not come back, unfortunately. Spoilers, sorry.
So
that was a fun one.
Is Prince of Tennis like the most safest thing you can talk about? Or is there anything else that's upcoming?
Well, yeah, that one actually got announced. So like actual things got released. Yay, I can always talk about that. Anything that hasn't been like announced yet, alas, I have to play coy and ignorant about stuff. There's always projects that people want me in, that they're trying to like name drop me, but like that's great. I appreciate that, but like I wish I had more control over that. I'm working, I'm doing some fun projects. Like everybody's always asking me like, when's season 3 of this and that of some particular show, and I have no response to that. And I know, I just if you see my Twitter feed, I make the occasional announcement. Sometimes I kind of forget for the shows that I do. I'm kind of bad about that, but I did. I feel like every voice actor in Texas and several on the West Coast did that fun Tiny Tina's Wonderland video game. I got to play a fun character that recorded probably a little over a year ago. That finally got released just this week. That's fun. That was a very weird character, little gremlin-y looking dude. A lot of fun, very funny, very silly. Mm-hmm. I love those little opportunities to do character stuff in the world of anime. Yeah, usually what happens with the animes and dubs is I'll do something and then it might get announced pretty quickly, but there's the occasional time where I just have to be patient and not say anything. More stuff's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my final question then is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh boy. I just want to be seen as a nice person to work with. I want to make people's job, if you're like a director or whatever, as easy as possible, like in a playful way. I want to be seen as a nice human being. In terms of voice, like I feel like I want to continue to do dynamic characters, with lots of different range of characters from young to old, to not just anime. I love doing cartoons and stuff. If I had my way, I would do like a cartoon classic, Mel Blanc style, where you're doing 20 characters on a show and I get to voice all of them. That's my dream. So if I kick the bucket, and I will have done a couple of one of those, that'll be good. And if not, at least get through life knowing that I made some people happy, for some of the shows that I've done. I've touched some people emotionally. I've seen it, like going to conventions and stuff. I've had people just, cry at me, like how meaningful some stuff is. I'm good. That was incredible. I love those moments that I've already gotten to have with some people. So more of those, please.
Mm. Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Oh yeah, me too. Thank you for having me on and just chatting a little bit about. I like the fun, obscure stuff, as long as I can remember them. And I'm very grateful for you to be able to chat with me and all the other fun voice actors you've had on the channel. I hope you keep growing. You've got some good fanship.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
See you.